proof didn't arrive like thunder. It arrived like an open tab. One click later, my marriage split cleanly into before and after. My laptop died on a Tuesday in October, the kind of death that happens mid-boot with no warning and no dignity. A flicker, a click, and then nothing. I stared at the black screen for a second too long. Like staring could change the outcome. Work doesn't care about your bad timing. Clients still need answers. Deadlines still breathe down your neck. So I went to the shared household laptop. The family one. The one we bought because Rachel liked the idea of a clean counter and fewer wires. It lived in the kitchen most days, tucked beside the fruit bowl like a harmless appliance. I carried it into my home office, set it down, and opened it like I'd done 100 times. It woke up fast. Too fast. Her email was still up. Rachel's inbox. Open. Logged in. Bright and innocent on the screen like it belonged there. Like I was the guest. My first instinct was to close it. Muscle memory. Decency. The 15-year habit of not looking. I reached for the mouse. That's when the preview flashed. From Logan subject. Last night didn't feel like just stress relief. My hand stopped midair. I read it again. Slower this time, like the words might rearrange into something normal if I gave them time. They didn't. A decent husband closes the tab and pretends he never saw it. A decent husband trusts his wife's privacy. But I wasn't thinking about decency anymore. I was thinking about physics, how one sentence can change the weight of a room. The house was quiet. The steady hum of the fridge. The faint tick of the wall clock. Rachel was still out, running errands. That was what she'd said. A simple line, tossed over her shoulder with car keys in hand. Running errands. I told myself there was an explanation. Wrong recipient. Bad joke. A coworker with no boundaries. Anything that didn't require my heart to accept a new reality. My cursor hovered over the message. I could still back out. I could still be the man who didn't snoop. Then I realized something sharp and cold. I wasn't snooping. This wasn't a lock I picked. This was a door she left open. I clicked. The email was loaded. A thread. Longer than it had any right to be. And in that first second of scrolling, I felt the floor shift. Quietly, completely. Like the house was still standing but the foundation had cracked. I didn't say her name out loud. I didn't make a sound. I just read. The first thing I noticed wasn't the flirting. It was confidence. People hiding something talk like they're scared of the truth. This thread didn't. It read like two people building a routine. Like they'd already rehearsed the lies and gotten bored of pretending to feel guilty. I scrolled once, slow, like the movement might wake me up. Logan, you were different last night. Rachel, because you don't expect anything from me except what I want to give. My throat tightened. Not from emotion. More like my body trying to reject what my eyes were feeding it. I kept going. There were dates, times, casual check-ins. The kind of everyday intimacy that doesn't happen in a one-time mistake. They talked about the weather, traffic, a show they were both watching. He sent a photo of a restaurant menu with a note. Next time. Next time. Rachel replied with a smiley face I recognized. Because I'd watched her use it on me for years when she wanted something small to feel light. Only this wasn't light. This was a second life typed out in neat little bubbles. I looked at the top of the thread again, hoping I'd misunderstood the name. Maybe Logan was a nickname for a friend I didn't know. Maybe I was overreacting and my brain had grabbed the worst possible meaning because humans are wired to fear loss. Then I saw her line, buried in the middle like it belonged there. Rachel, I hate going home after being with you. Feels like putting on a costume. I sat back in my chair. The room didn't change, but it felt like it did. Same desk. Same framed photo of us at the lake. Sunburned, smiling, pretending the future was guaranteed. Same work notebook with today's to-do list, neat and pathetic. I scrolled again. There were pictures. Not explicit, worse than that. Normal. Familiar. Proof of place. A selfie of her in a hotel mirror, hair slightly damp, wearing the cardigan I bought her last winter. In the background, a lamp I recognized because we'd sat under it together 2 years ago on our anniversary trip. Same chain. Same style. Same bland, expensive comfort. Except the timestamp didn't belong to our trip. It landed on a week I remembered clearly, because she told me she was staying late for quarter-end chaos. I'd heated leftovers for one and sent her a text. "Drive safe." She replied, "Love you." I stared at the date like it was a math problem that wouldn't be solved. Then I found another, a receipt screenshot, a reservation confirmation. Her name, 2 guests, not me. I didn't slam the laptop shut. I didn't punch a wall. I didn't collapse into a movie scene breakdown. I just sat there and listened to the house. Its ordinary hum, its calm, its routine, while my mind did the ugly arithmetic. It wasn't just that she cheated. It was that she had room for it, room to build it, room to maintain it, room to look me in the eyes every morning and smile like nothing was wrong. I scrolled to the bottom, and my finger trembled once on the trackpad. Not fear, something closer to instinct. The part of me that knew, without being told, that once you see enough, you don't get to go back to before. And I'd already seen enough. I didn't confront her. Confrontation is for men who want relief. Relief is expensive. It buys you a moment and sells you the outcome. I wanted certainty. I shut the laptop halfway, not all the way, just enough that it looked idle. Then I sat there and breathed through my nose until my pulse stopped trying to climb out of my throat. 15 years with a person teaches you their patterns. Rachel's were clean. The phone was always face down when she worked. Passwords saved because she liked convenience. Cloud syncing turned on because she hated losing photos. Shared calendars because we were organized adults. That night, I played my role. I asked about her day. I nodded at the right spots. I laughed when she made a small joke about a coworker. I poured her a glass of wine like I hadn't just watched her write that coming home felt like wearing a costume. She took a shower and hummed, soft, careless, like a woman whose conscience had already negotiated peace with itself. I waited until the water ran steady. Then I moved. I didn't rummage like a desperate husband. I worked like an IT consultant looking at a breach. Quiet, methodical, no panic clicks. I opened the settings, checked saved accounts. The laptop was linked to her phone. Her phone was linked to her cloud. The cloud was linked to everything. Photos, messages, location history, app logins. A life leaves fingerprints when it thinks it's safe. I didn't grab everything at once. That's how people get caught. That's how they tip off the other side and watch the evidence evaporate. I took notes. I made a timeline in my head. I marked what existed and where it lived. When she got out of the shower, she walked past my office door in a towel, hair wrapped, and called, "You still working?" "Just finishing a few things," I said, and my voice came out normal. That was the first win of the new version of me, normal. Later, she climbed into bed beside me. The mattress shifted, the familiar weight of her shoulder near mine. Close enough to be intimate, far enough to feel like a stranger. She checked her phone one last time. Screen glow against her cheek. I stared at the ceiling and regulated my breathing like I was lying next to someone I'd just met, because I'd decided something simple and final. I was going to know everything before I said a single word. The next day, I wore the same clothes as every other day. Coffee, shower, work emails. Rachel moving through the kitchen in socks, talking about schedules like our life was still a shared document. I answered on autopilot, the right sounds at the right time, a husband-shaped presence. Inside, everything had narrowed. On my second monitor, I kept a plain text file open, nothing dramatic. Just dates, times, and short notes. A case file built out of ordinary lies. By lunch, I'd mapped enough of the synced accounts to stop guessing. The cloud held message previews. The calendar held patterns. Location history filled in the spaces where her stories went vague. Then the new message hit. Logan, usual spot, 7:30. Don't be late this time. A minute later, Rachel's text came in on my phone. Client dinner tonight. Might be late. Don't wait up. The timing was almost insulting. Same hour. Same calm. I didn't respond right away. I let the message sit there, because I wanted to remember what it felt like when she chose to lie to my face without even slowing down. I opened the thread again. Scrolled until I found the part they treated like routine. Rachel. Same place? The apartment hotel off Kingsley? Logan. Yeah. The front desk knows you now. There it was. A location that wasn't poetic or mysterious, just practical. A place designed for people who didn't want neighbors. I pulled up the address, cross-checked it with her location history. A neat little cluster of pings, always within the same block, always in the same 2-hour window. Dates stacked like bricks. I started taking screenshots, clean captures with timestamps visible. Not just the messages, but the context. Her lie to me, his confirmation to her, the address in black and white. Then I backed them up. Twice. Local folder. Encrypted drive. Because now the betrayal wasn't a feeling. It wasn't even a secret. It was measurable. At 3:12 p.m., she told me, client dinner. At 3:13 p.m., she confirmed, usual spot. At 7:30 p.m., she would drive across town and step into the life she thought I'd never see. I wrote it down anyway, not because I'd forget, because details are weapons when someone lies calmly. For 3 days, I lived like I was acting in my own life. Daytime Ethan made toast, asked about her meetings, and remembered to take the trash out. Nighttime Ethan sat in a dark office with the laptop glow on his hands, pulling threads until the whole thing stopped looking like an affair and started looking like a habit. The first night, I told myself I only needed proof. The second night, I realized proof was the easy part. The third night is when it got ugly. I found the messages where they didn't perform, where they didn't write like two people in love. They wrote like two people amused by the same joke. And the joke was me. Logan. He really buys it? Rachel. Ethan? He's predictable. If I smile and ask about his day, he melts. Logan. That's sad. Rachel. It's convenient. I read that line twice. Not because I didn't understand it, because my brain refused to file it under my wife. There was more. She describes my routines like weaknesses. My steadiness is like stupidity. The things I thought were strengths, reliability, patience, showing up, reduced to a punchline. Rachel, he thinks stability is a personality. Logan, maybe he just needs a hobby. Rachel, he has one. He's paying bills and thinking that makes him a man. I sat there with my hands flat on the desk. I didn't move. I didn't blink for a few seconds. It felt like my body was trying to keep still so something inside me didn't crack and spill out. People talk about heartbreak like it's just sadness. This wasn't sadness. This was contempt. Cold. Specific. Personal. An affair is betrayal. Contempt is a kind of violence that doesn't leave bruises, but it changes how you see the person holding the knife. I kept reading because once you know what someone really thinks, you either face it or you lie to yourself. Rachel. If he ever finds out, he'll probably cry. Logan. What, like a movie? Rachel. Like Ethan. He's soft when it counts. Soft. It was the word that landed the hardest because it was simple and final. Like she'd already decided who I was and filed me away as something safe to step over. I scrolled further and found something that made my stomach go tight. A voice memo. Short. Casual. Her voice, recorded for him, laughing, talking about timing and money and how she'd play nice until it was convenient. Not a woman trapped. Not a woman confused. A woman planning. I stopped the playback before it finished, not because I couldn't handle it, but because I didn't need to hear more to understand the shape of her. I leaned back and looked around my office. The wedding photo on the shelf. The little bowl where she dropped spare change. The framed certificate from a job promotion she'd celebrated with me like I was her teammate. All of it suddenly felt like set dressing. That's when the shock drained out and something colder took its place. Not rage. Rage is loud and clumsy. This was weight. A calm heaviness settling into my bones. And in that quiet, I accepted the real truth. There wasn't going to be a romantic misunderstanding. No tearful confession that fixed it. No, we can work through this conversation that made it whole again. There was only an exit. And I was going to plan it like a man who refused to be laughed at in his own house. Once you've seen enough, the work changes. I stopped collecting like a wounded husband and started organizing like a professional. Feelings are messy. Files aren't. I made a folder structure the way I would for a client audit, simple, clean, impossible to argue with. 01 timeline 02 messages 03 underscore photos 04 underscore receipts 05 underscore audio 06 underscore backups. Every screenshot got a name with a date and time. Every email thread got exported. I grabbed metadata where I could. Headers, timestamps, anything that turned, he said / she said, into here's the record. Receipts were everywhere once I looked with the right eyes. Small charges at places she never mentioned. Rideshare trips that didn't match her story. A hotel payment sitting in plain sight like it didn't know it was a confession. The audio clip went into its own folder. I listened to it once all the way through without blinking. Her voice was light, almost bored, talking about divorce like it was a logistics problem. Talking about money like it was the real relationship she cared about preserving. When it ended, I didn't replay it. I didn't need to. I'd already memorized the tone. Then I backed everything up. Multiple places. Encrypted drive. A cloud account she didn't know existed. The way you back up something you can't afford to lose, because once the other person senses the floor moving, they start sweeping. That afternoon, I called a divorce attorney a friend in finance had used. The kind of guy who didn't sell hope. He sold outcomes. His receptionist tried to schedule me for next week. I told her it was urgent, and my voice didn't shake when I said it. 10 minutes later, I had an appointment. His office was clean and quiet, expensive without trying to impress. I sat across from him in a chair that felt designed to keep you upright. He didn't ask for my feelings first. He asked for facts. I slid the folder across his desk. He opened it, flipped through pages. I looked at timestamps, studied the receipts with the same calm I'd seen in surgeons. No raised eyebrows, no pity, just attention. When he got to the audio transcript, his mouth tightened slightly, like he'd just found the motive written in the suspect's handwriting. He closed the folder and looked at me. "This is strong," he said. "Not just proof. Pattern. Planning. That matters." I nodded once, because nodding was safer than speaking. He laid out the procedure like a roadmap. What to do, what not to do, what to document, how to protect assets without doing anything that could be framed as vindictive. He wasn't emotional about it. That was the point. When he finished, he said, "If you want to move forward, we can file when you're ready." Ready. I'd been ready since the moment I read her call me convenient. I just hadn't admitted it yet. I stood, shook his hand, and felt something shift again. Not like the floor cracking this time, but like it locking into place. Heartbreak was personal. Protection was procedural. And now this wasn't just a wound. It was a legal process with stakes I refused to lose. Friday night, I set the table like we were still us. Her favorite meal, candles, the bottle of red we'd been saving for someday. Like someday was a real place and not just a lie we used to avoid looking at the present. I moved through the kitchen with steady hands. Not because I felt steady, because I'd decided the end of this would be clean. Rachel walked in around 7, heels clicking, hair done, face arranged. "Wow," she said, smiling like I just handed her a reason to believe she was still safe here. "What's the occasion?" "Just felt like doing something nice," I said. She kissed my cheek. Quick press. Routine intimacy. Then she sat down and started talking about work. Names, deadlines, harmless complaints. Like her voice could wallpaper over the cracks. I poured wine. I listened. I answered when it was my turn. Like a man reading from a script he'd memorized years ago. For a while, it almost worked. That's the scary part. Habit is powerful. If you don't fight it, it will keep you in a burning house because the furniture is familiar. Halfway through dinner, she laughed at something she'd said, and I watched her mouth shape the sound. I realized I didn't recognize her anymore. I put my fork down. She noticed. "You okay?" I looked at her and let the silence stretch just long enough to change the air in the room. "Who's Logan?" I asked. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was the only question that mattered. The color didn't just drain from her face. It emptied, like someone pulled the plug on whatever performance she'd been running. Her eyes flicked down, then back up. A quick recalculation. How did you? She started, and that was all I needed. Not what are you talking about? Not who? Not even Ethan, please. Just logistics. Just damage control. I stood, walked to the counter, and picked up the folder I'd placed there earlier like an ingredient. When I came back, I didn't throw it. I slid it onto the table between us, slow and deliberate, like a verdict being served. She stared at it the way people stare at something they know will end them. I know, I said. All of it. And for the first time in weeks, the room was honest. She reached for the folder like it was hot. Ethan, please, she said, and her voice finally found a tremble, like emotion was something she could still deploy when the stakes were real. I didn't speak. I just watched her open it. Her eyes moved fast, screenshots, timestamps, receipts. She kept flipping like speed could change what she was seeing. Her mouth opened once, then closed. Then she tried the first move, denial with confidence. This isn't what it looks like. I leaned back slightly. It looks like you are meeting him at an apartment hotel off Kingsley at 7:30, while you text me about a client dinner. Her head snapped up. Her face tightened. The second move, tears. They came quickly like she'd practiced them. I was lonely. You were always working. I didn't mean for it to. I cut it off without raising my voice. Don't. The third move, bargaining. We can go to therapy, she said, voice rushing now. I'll block him. I'll do anything. Please, Ethan, we've built a life. I let her talk until she ran out of breath, because watching someone scramble is its own kind of truth. When she stopped, I said, You messaged him today. Her eyes widened. No. I tapped the page. A screenshot with the timestamp, her words, the plan for the weekend. She stared at it, and the tears changed. Less performance. More fear. Then I showed her the part she didn't know existed. I turned my laptop toward her. Opened a simple folder, screenshots of dating profiles. Logan's face. Same grin. Same angles. Different bios. Different apps. Different women. Recycled lines. Same looking for something real nonsense. Copy-pasted like his personality came from a template. Rachel's eyes scanned the screen, and the confusion hit first. Then the realization, slow and sick. Her lips parted. She swallowed like she might throw up. No, she whispered, like saying it could undo it. He told me. He told you what worked, I said. That's what men like him do. She turned her head toward me, looking for something. Sympathy, maybe. Rescue. The old Ethan who would absorb her mess because stability was my religion. She didn't find him. I'm not here to gloat, I said. I'm here to end this. Her voice rose. You're really doing this? After 15 years. I'm filing Monday, I said. My lawyer already has everything. That landed harder than the evidence. The folder was in pain. The lawyer was consenting. Rachel stood, chair scraping back. You can't just. I can, I said, and my tone stayed flat because anger would only give her something to hold on to. And I am. She made a sound, half sob, half gasp, and reached for my hand like it was instinct. I pulled back before she could touch me. Then I stood, gathered the folder, and walked out of the dining room. Not fast, not storming, just leaving. I went to the guest room, closed the door, and locked it. On the other side, the house absorbed the sound of her collapse. Shaky breaths, a muffled cry, a cabinet door opening and shutting like she didn't know what to do with her hands. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clean. And for the first time since October, I slept without pretending. The months after Friday weren't cinematic. They were procedural, like demolition work done by people who don't talk much. Paperwork, account statements, emails with subject lines that looked harmless until you realized each one was another brick removed from a life you built together. Rachel cycled through emotions like she was trying on outfits in a mirror. One week she was remorseful and soft, texting paragraphs about history, about vows, about who we really are. The next week she was furious, calling me cold, calling me cruel, acting like my refusal to be manipulated was the real betrayal. I stayed consistent. That was the only way to win without losing myself. My attorney filed on Monday exactly like I said. The first formal letter went out, and the tone of everything changed. Rachel stopped speaking to me like a spouse and started speaking to me like an opponent. The house got quieter. We moved through it in separate lanes. I documented everything: expenses, conversations, dates. Not because I enjoyed it, because ambiguity is where people rewrite history. When the financials started coming in, the story on paper looked worse than the story in my head. Money spent on hotels, meals that weren't client dinners, rideshare trips across town on nights she told me she was exhausted and going to bed early. Still, I didn't lash out. I didn't scream. I didn't smash anything. Rage would have been easy. Rage would have been a gift to her, proof that I was unstable, proof that I was the problem. What I did instead was report what was real. Rachel's affair had overlap with work, time, resources, and at least one trip logged as business. My lawyer didn't push me toward it, and he didn't stop me. He just said, "If you're going to do it clean." So I made a formal report to HR. Facts only. Dates, screenshots, receipts, and a short statement that avoided drama. No moral language. No "I'm hurt." Just misuse, conflict, and evidence. An internal investigation isn't a thunderstorm. It's a slow leak that turns into a flood once someone checks the pipes. Rachel lost her job. She showed up at the house like she'd been shot with it, eyes wild, voice shaking. "You did this," she said. "You ruined me." I didn't raise my voice. "The rules did that," I told her. "You broke them." I documented it. She stared at me like she was waiting for me to soften, waiting for the old Ethan to apologize for her consequences. I didn't. The divorce itself was a grind. Asset division, valuations, negotiation. We didn't have kids, which made it cleaner but not easier. Every shared thing became a line item. Every memory got assigned a number. In the end, I kept the house after paying her court-assessed share. She got the car and part of the investments. It wasn't a victory lap. It had an ending. On the day everything was finalized, I came home and stood in the entryway for a minute, listening to nothing. No her keys dropping in the bowl. No footsteps in the hallway. No voice calling from the kitchen. Just air. It felt strange, and then it felt light. Winter turned into spring. The world did what it always does. Kept moving, indifferent to personal tragedy. I rebuilt my routines without her inside them. Work, gym, meals that were mine. Friends I'd neglected because I'd been busy maintaining a marriage that wasn't mutual. Then, in April, on a rainy afternoon, I ran into her. It was outside a cafe near downtown. Gray sky, wet pavement. She looked thinner. Not elegant thinner, worn thinner. Her hair was pulled back like she didn't have energy for the old performance. We stood there for a second, both of us measuring the distance between who we were and who we'd become. "Ethan," she said quietly. "Rachel." She tried a small smile and failed. "You look okay." "I am," I said. Her eyes searched my face for something. Anger, regret, any sign that she still mattered in the way she wanted to matter. "I didn't think it would end like this," she said. I nodded once. "Neither did I." She opened her mouth like she wanted to say more. An apology, maybe, or a defense, or a request. I didn't give her room for it. "I hope you figure your life out," I said. And I meant it in the cleanest way possible. Not as forgiveness. Not as revenge. Just closure. Her shoulders sagged. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Like the words were late enough to be useless. I held her gaze for a beat. "I know." Then I stepped around her and walked away. No backward glance. No final speech. Closure isn't winning. It's choosing not to live in the past anymore.
Subscribe and stay one step ahead of cheaters. And trust me, the next story makes this one look like a fairy tale.